Welcome for a new episode Live from the Heart podcast. I'm Anne-Claire Méret, your hostess, and I'm delighted to be today with Fabrice Maravigna, with whom we recorded recent podcasts about different truths that we wanted to share with the world. And thank you very much for your comments and encouragement and enthusiasm about having new episodes with us together. Welcome, Fabrice. I'm super happy that you're here tonight for you.
Thank you, Anne-Claire, for having me more and more regularly. It's always a joy to discuss with interesting people and to invite our brothers and sisters to maybe question ideas and concepts that they didn't really have time to look into. So I'm very happy to be here with you.
I think it's going to become a thing this year. We're going to make it happen that we're going to have frequent episodes, short, so that we can kind of turn on the light on different topics and that people can dive deeper if this is something that interests them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you just make a brief introduction? Because I guess some people, they will not know about you when they find this podcast, whether it's soon or later down the road. So a brief introduction about yourself.
Okay, I need to get better with this one, Anne-Claire, because I feel like repeating myself for your diligent listeners. So just in a nutshell, I'm just another brother and sister out there. It's just in 2007, I felt like I had to leave my country and explore the world to get a sense of how people do things outside of the bubble that I knew my entire life. And so for the last 17 years, I've really been a kind of a direct experience kind of guy. I had a lot of fun, a lot of experiences, and a lot of realizations from living a very rich life, at times dangerous or not unconscious, but I just wasn't aware of how far I pushed some limits, with my body, for example, with nutrition, with fasting, with plant medicines, stuff like that. But overall, I just did a lot of meditations, a lot of things that are still a bit mysterious to the average person who just have a job and a family. And I went down that road, and today I just feel like sharing some of my perspectives and hoping that we can raise the bar of so-called conscious conversations. And I say so-called because at different stages on our journey, we always think that we hold the truth. And what I've discovered is that there's not such a thing as a final truth. It's as we grow, we just discover a better way to support our existence and to serve other people's. But yeah, I hope today we can clarify, some certain subjects that are still very mysterious, or at least give your listener a quick time to start to think into those beautiful subjects, because sometimes we don't even have the time or the opportunity to start thinking about things. About things. I'm just an explorer, and I'm just all about the actualization of the human potential, basically.
Yeah, and you're so curious, and you just dive deep into the experiences yourself, which I think is very valuable, and then you share them generously, which is fun. And I like that about you. This is a journey of sovereignty too. It's a journey of figuring out what works for you, and then keeping what works and just leaving what's not working.
Yeah, I think sovereignty is a big word, but the implications and responsibilities that come with it are definitely subjects that interest us.
Yeah.
How to have more choices in the world, basically, and how to tap back into our inner power, intuition, guidance, instead of just following, sort of a a government sort of direction, for the next 40 years of our lives.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, today we've decided together that we're going to address a topic which will be interesting for people who are wondering how they can escape their governments and create their companies in a more sovereign way. And also the choices of why so many of us decided to be kind of digital nomads for a while, to figure out what it actually means to be off this world and choose where to settle, if this is a choice of us, and where to set up companies, if this is a choice of us to have companies. And this is interesting because I have a lot of people texting me and private messaging me on social media, asking me how I did it. And there is a lot of fears regarding this topic.
Yeah, I bet they start to ask you how you did it, because we have to learn a lot of new things, right, when we dive in the unknown. So that's definitely a super interesting subject. When we decide, basically, okay, to frame this in a different way, some of us do feel intrinsically, we feel that we are not where we're supposed to be with our lives. But there is a lot of fear of the unknown, fear of not having enough money, fear that we're going to have to leave behind some very close friends, or sometimes we have a partner and they don't see the world the same as well, right? So, but there come a time for some of us where we need to burn a bridge. We need to try something completely crazy, something that it's as scary as it is exciting, For me, when I was 23, that's what happened to me. I left south of France to go to Australia with my best friend at the time. And that's something that I wanted to do for years. For 6 or 7 years, I was thinking of going there, but it always felt like a dream. And when the rubber met the road and I finally committed and bought the ticket, this changed everything. That one experience changed everything about who I was, and so I think today we can talk about that. We can talk about a little bit how it feels to feel stuck in a lie or in a life that is not really our highest potential, and the fears that are associated with that, but also how beautiful it is when we finally tackle the hero's journey, that insane adventure. It's like a roller coaster of emotions and realizations, but ultimately a lot of wisdom is gained from having those direct experiences versus maybe just reading a few books on the weekend about things that are of interest,
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think there are a lot of people who think we live glamorous lives, having made the choices that we've made. And in a way, we do, let's say it, we do. But in another way, not everyone wants to live what we live. For example, I'm still in Bali, you're no longer in Bali, but in Bali, there is, you can find mosquitoes and you're constantly sweating, and sometimes it rains for days. And there are a lot of bugs, there is dengue, many things can happen. And I think some people don't realize from where they're at that everything comes with pros and cons. And then you must just choose what feels right in the moment, and things can change also in the future. And I remember when I moved to Costa Rica from Berlin, where I stayed during COVID for a long time, way too long, I was thinking, I will always wonder if Costa Rica will be a good place for me until I go. Like, there's no way that from my couch in Berlin, I know if this is a good match for me. It's just not possible. I will only know when I'm there.
Yeah.
And it was fucking
your
scary.
friends can tell you, right? Your friends can tell you how great it is, but it doesn't mean that it can work for you as well.
Exactly.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
And when you say mosquitoes in Bali, I think we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of them. it's people need to know there's a price to pay for Bali, a hidden cost. Um, but yeah, and Claire, jokes aside, I think the message today is really try and remind our listeners, your audience, that if your heart is really yearning for something, you, my friend, should really go after it. And something that helped me to make my first decision of so when you leave your country, you leave your language behind, all your friends, all your support network. Every day you have to translate the currencies that you're paying with. Like your whole brain is on high alert at all time.
Mhm.
But I think it's better to take on this adventure instead of having regrets. I think it's especially if you have the means to do it. And by this, I mean, you don't need to be 20 years old to travel. Some people in their 40s or 50s, they reinvent themselves totally. They recreate a whole new life. So something that helped me the first time to make that choice was you have to think, okay, what would be the worst of the worst of the worst case scenario? So let's say you dream of leaving your job. You've been stuck in a job for 3-4 years, praying for a pay raise, and your life is really like a routine, a very, very simple routine. And your heart is asking for more, but your mind is always bringing on the table limitations and fears and justifications of why you shouldn't listen to your heart, right? So if you start to think out what would be the worst of the worst case scenario, for me was going to Australia for a year, which funnily enough, I never came back.
Mhm.
I actually left and never came back. But I could have come back actually. And I can guarantee you that I would have picked things up where I left them at. So if you are in hospitality or in marketing or whatever, most jobs, basically you can find a new job when you come back actually. um, and so it's definitely more difficult to not try and get closer to your dreams. This is actually more difficult than giving yourself a chance to dive into the unknown and the mystery. And then you take it day by day. You meet the right people. There is life seems to come into the picture when you listen to your heart and support you with synchronicities and little winks every day, like, hey, I'm with you. Continue your exploration.
Yeah. It feels also that we have access to a certain amount of information until we move. It's like if we don't move, whether creating a company, whether moving abroad or making a different life path choice regarding a vocation or something, we have only access to a certain amount of information. And then when we set in motion, then life will send you the right people who will tell us, oh, I know someone who can help you, and you can get more information there. And then we take it from there, and it constantly grows inside of us because we nourish it and because we're in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't do that, we don't have access to the information we need to make sense of the journey. And this is, I think, super important because everything is available. Everything is out there. How to set up companies abroad, how to get new residencies, what's the best choice for you for this or that, more sovereign choices. It's like, it's not like it's not available. It's available. It's just that sometimes
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know, right? And I like what you said because right now I'm in the States, in America, and when I was in France, my idea of Americans was just that. It was an idea. The idea that the movie industry, the music industry portrayed in the media. And it's always so far away from the truth. So I like what you say. Like you need to travel basically to get the codes and to get the answers. And in some way, I feel like it's true. A lot of Americans do not travel outside of America. It's true. They are famous for that. But actually, looking at most nations, most French people do not travel outside of, it's a more modern thing in the last 10 years, 15 years, with flight tickets being cheaper and the globalization and the social media. There is a rise of people who give themselves permission to travel. But when we live in a country, we have a set and a subset of programs that are highly relevant for that particular place in the world. And what I found out is the more you travel, the more you start to see through all the limitations of those programs. And it's very, very enriching to learn a new language, to discover a new culture. It will change you forever. It changed everyone forever, because we are basically merging our identity with all those new codes and philosophies and ways of living as a human being. So like you say, you need to take the ticket, you need to dive into the mystery and go and get the codes over there. And especially for young entrepreneurs who do not have to work in an office. Maybe you have the luxury already to be able to work remotely. And so therefore you could indeed pick up a better country. What do I mean by better? Maybe you get so much more for your money, for a superior lifestyle. Maybe it's quieter, it's more nature, it's something that you like more than living in a city, like all those things, right? But yeah, for the entrepreneur or someone who have already gained some kind of success in life, maybe you are like a 45 years old adult, or 45 years young adult, should I say, because I'm 40 myself. So, you lived, you had the career, you have some kids, you have a wife, and then all of a sudden you are like, wow, would it actually be possible for us to consider to relocate ourselves? And yeah, I would say wholeheartedly the answer is yes. So perhaps a nice way to approach this would be first to look at what you value most. Is it food? Is it music? Is it art? Is it nature? Is it meditation? So you make a list of the top 5 things that are the highest values for yourself. And most people have never done that. Most people have never looked into what they genuinely love for themselves. And then perhaps you go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks over there to take the vibe. And like you were saying before, get the direct experience. Is this a whole fantasy, or is this actually going to open my heart even more? And so if you do that, it's pretty safe. It's pretty safe to do it this way. And then if you decide to make the big move, then you will just tackle one issue at a time. So you start with the kind of visa you need or permits to stay in another country, to work there perhaps. And then you're going to look at, how do I open a bank account over there? How do I get a new phone number over there? And what happened is, month after month, years after years, you just keep on adding more choices and more options and more confidence into your life, because we've seen that with recent wars, in Europe. How would that be for you to have 1 or 2 other places that you really like, where you could live at any given moment, instead of complaining about politics, about governments, about things that we have no control over? Wouldn't it be a better possibility to step in your sovereignty and just have more choices?
Yeah. This is very precious, this notion of choice, because many of us, we didn't feel we had the choice. We were born in a place and things were a certain way. And when I became an entrepreneur, I understood that it was the only choices I had was to be an auto-entrepreneur or have an EURL in French. And this is it. And there was no other choice. And then when I started to travel, I understood that many people had companies in Singapore, in the UK, in Dubai, in different places. I started to follow interesting people on social media who actually talk about it. And one day Christian told me something. He said, "Oh, I follow this guy. He lives in different countries because those countries have different interests to him, and he just makes the most of it. Like every year when he goes to Thailand, he does some things about his health. Every year when he goes to Germany, he does something about this. And he chooses to live in those countries and make the most out of them, choose the most out of them." And it was such another way of seeing things for me. It was like, oh, you get to choose. And then I had this vision. I thought, if every human being would actually be choosing, the countries would make more efforts to be attractive to us. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I'm not chosen. I'm such a bad country. I'm going to do better.
That is such a fun way to look at it. Yeah, it would create some competition, right?
Yeah.
What you speak of is very precious to me, Anne-Claire. And I think we can label this, it's called life by design. So you become the artist of your life. You become the movie director of the own movie that you're watching. But like you suggested before, there is an awakening moment here. And, we can argue all day long to call people asleep, to call people woke, awaken. It's just linguistics, right? What we're trying to say here is, for the longest time, we feel disempowered. We don't see options. We don't know different possibilities unless another human being come into contact with us with those codes. And that's why it's amazing to live your best life. It's because not only you liberate yourself at so many levels of old programs and glass ceilings and all kind of things, but then when you meet people or come back to old friends, you give them permission to, wow, not only it's possible, but it works. And you already have a little piece of the answer for them as a gift as well. So life by design is really, really epic. And this is the fruit. This is the reward of those who are brave enough to listen to themselves and remain quite open to go and discover other ways of doing things. It's so easy. Usually when you live in France, you sort of like jokes about people in Belgium or in UK, and if you live in Australia, you laugh about people in New Zealand and Americans and Canadians, right? It seems to be a template. Every person is kind of like, we basically think initially that everybody else is an idiot and that we do things so well ourselves. That's the initial program. But then when you travel, you may realize very quickly what humility means, because we realize how little we actually knew by being born and stay for 20, 30, 40 years in just one single operating system. There are literally hundreds of operating systems on this planet. And even though you may not have to try them all, I suppose it would be wise to try 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, so you can really harmonize your perceptions and see what is actually not working in this country and what is working better and more efficient and more fun and what else,
Yeah. Exactly. I know a lot of people who are tempted and who are actually doing it to live a kind of outside of systems, not setting up companies and doing everything like under the table and things like that, which I totally understand, because sometimes you just want to break free. And it can be also very helpful to, for example, start the business without worrying about too much paperwork and all the things. But what I noticed is that it's very limiting. When people want to do that, then they're small players. If you
trigger warning.
If you withdraw from all how would I put it, all frames, and if you just want to be like out of the box and do your own things, you will end up doing a lot of small things. But if you want to do really big things, like have big companies and make big numbers and have big impact and everything that goes with it, you kind of have to make a choice, which will be the best for you, with pros and cons, once again, that makes you feel grounded in something so that you can grow. And how you've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, I guess, doing that under the table and then setting up companies. What are your views on that?
Look, that's an epic question. And, first and foremost, I have been this myself. So I think to articulate that is because we are stuck in a synthetic, difficult life with so much demand, so much stress. Someone who just work a basic 9 to 5 for 20 years, there is not so much spark and life force in that kind of person because we give it away to someone else so often. So when we finally, maybe someone save like 50 grand and they go to Thailand or Costa Rica or Bali for a year or two, we start to heal ourselves, we start to detox, we discover the cacao ceremony, the ecstatic dance, the massages, the tantra, whatever, like all those things that are playful and juicy and make us feel so alive. So that's the initial phase, and we start to uncoil our nervous system to wake up in the morning without an alarm clock, for example, waking up just with your natural rhythm. Nobody talk about that as being successful in life, but when you have the luxury to wake up without an alarm in the morning, trust me, it doesn't mean you need to sleep till 10 a.m. But the very few times I put an alarm now, for the last 5 or 10 years, sometimes I have a plane to take or we're planning something, so I wake up at 6 in the morning or 6:30, and it's traumatic for the nervous system. Waking up in a panic and fear and getting out of our sweet little dreams, So anyways, what I would like to say here is in those early years we feel that like we are free from whatever, free from blah, 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 fill up the blanks. And then what end up happening for the brothers and sisters who stay in there for too long, like you say, so they don't grow anymore. They don't develop the ability to make money. They prefer to think you have to be a bastard to be rich. This kind of limiting beliefs. They prefer to believe that rich people are bad. All of them, no exception. They're all bad. So therefore, I will be poor and I will be a good person. And I was one of them. I was a hippie for a few years, smoking a lot of weed and eating a lot of fruits and just trying to take care of myself and my well-being. And little did I know this was not even sustainable over a decade, let's say. But even worse, I was running away from my responsibilities as a man. And many neo-spiritual, for lack of a better term, I think this encompasses a lot of people who are sort of kind of early on their awakening journey. They feel, and I mean, so am I. We're all early on our awakening journey, okay? The awakening journey never ends, but some people literally woke up 2 or 3 years ago. Some of us 15, 20 years ago. Maybe you have an uncle who was already woke in the 70s and 80s, okay? But all I'm saying is, number-wise, we've seen a huge wave in the last 3-4 years of digital nomads, entrepreneurs. They try the vegan thing, they try the plant medicine thing, they try the polyamory thing, they try. And we can talk of all of that. All of those concepts are super interesting. And I would say, though, when we run away from our responsibilities, okay, let's take a very simple example. Let's say all I want is my partner, and a little plot of land, and we live off the grid. Few chickens, maybe not even chickens if you don't want to eat meat, but just a little veggie garden, some solar panels on the top. And then, so initially we think this is it. This is gonna to be it. This is gonna to be the meaning of life. But then one day we need to take our car to go to the closest shop and buy something. Or, you need to travel, take a plane for whatever family reasons and stuff. And so in those moments, I can see like the typical surfer dude, or, whatever, like someone who's like, yeah, no worries, Hakuna Matata, like that's the vibe all the time, But yet what these brothers and sisters are failing to see is some people had to build the road that you are using right now just to feel good, to go to the ocean, to go to the shop. And so the first step is to take care of ourselves as human beings. And by all means, if you're listening and you need a few years to heal yourself from trauma, to develop yourself, to learn a new skill set, these are necessary steps. We cannot take shortcuts. But as soon as this is taken care of, you will then realize the necessity of contributing to the people around you, to your community. If everybody is just so selfish, then what happened over 50 years or 100 years for civilization if everybody is just all about their personal needs to be met? So that's why I say it's a little early on the awakening journey to think this way. There is no yet the wisdom of playing a game bigger than self. And so you were talking about making money, getting a business, and for a lot of people who are just dancing all day long and having little costumes and feathers, and these are precious years, absolutely precious years in life. But it's not like it's so easy from that perspective to call a business person an overachiever. You see, because everything is the polarity of the same coin. And so this is a nice coin, actually, from 1884. Yes, silver coin. So these people would be the people who are against government, against corporations. They don't like rich people. All those beliefs have not been scrutinized yet. And they play small and they live small, but they don't know. They don't know there is another way, right? And this way here is maybe business tycoon, work 100 hours a week, stress levels to the max, not even happy, making millions of dollars. But fam, there is a perfect in between right here. And actually you can start to move forward. Someone showed me that analogy the other day of the coin. Once you reconciliate your perspectives with the two sides of the polarity, then you start to become a more functional human being, a more loving, a more compassionate, a more accomplished, a more successful, a healthier human being, and that's because you don't find yourself stuck into any kind of extreme views with those subjects.
Yeah. Thank you. That feels good, especially coming back from Copenhagen with a lot of hippies.
Yeah, as much as I love Copenhagen, I love it for a vacation as well, because everybody's happy with just making it by. And I'm wondering what will happen to those people when they are 50, 60, 70 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't even think about that, but we got to build something in our 30s and 40s while we have the fire and the energy, right?
Yeah. So we're going to keep this episode short. Anything you want to share to wrap it up?
Okay. Well, I know it's not easy, fam, to try and convey some kind of. We try to share complex subjects in short formats, and for sure we're gonna to. People may misinterpret what we said or how we said it, but I just wanna share with you, fam, that if you are truly tuning into your heart, to tap into your heart doesn't mean to just be love and light and to be, I don't have any fear anymore to call some people delusional. Okay, so if you just think that you already live in the 5D or the 12D, but there is no money in the bank, or if you think that all the people in the governments are bad and you cannot see, we're talking about human nature. Everything you look at, they are valuable people, loving people, and then there are people in pain, people in greed, but the bottom line is they are not even good or bad. They are in love or they are in pain. And so when a person in love is trying to convey something and the listener is in pain, we will have a tendency to just feel triggered and reject the actual gem, the actual golden nugget from the conversation, just because that belief system is different than the belief system that we hold ourselves. And so I really invite all my brothers and sisters listening today to pay close attention to who they actually take advice from in life. Maybe even our own parents, they are in pain. They don't have a good health. They don't have money in the bank, but we love them. We love them to bits and pieces. We love them till the end. But these role models are actually not gonna to help us grow. And so that's why it's difficult to convey your opinions to a group of people. It's difficult to be seen and heard by people because people judge you. They judge you because you speak differently to what they are used to hear. But as long as your intent is coming from love, I think it's okay to create a little bit of triggers and to engage with an audience, so we can start those conversations. We can start to scrutinize deeper into those subjects. And I will leave you with this, but my number one philosophy is to seek for balance, to seek for the middle path. And it may sound very mystical, but the middle path is very simple. You don't want to be absolutely broke, and you don't have to be a multi-billionaire. But hey, maybe you can be someone in between, someone who can make a difference in your community and have resources to deploy to beautiful things. But you have those resources. You have them in your hand. And that's very different. What it takes to be that is very different than having nice dreams and hopes and visions, right? So people who just choose the love and light, they forget that the rest of the world is not in love and light. There are a lot of people who are in pain. And so balance in everything, with everything that you can. Every subject, every conversation that you start to look into, just try to lay out on a piece of paper what would be the two extremes. Okay? So with nutrition, maybe it's to be raw vegan, fruitarian, breatharian. That's one extreme of the spectrum. And the other extreme is like, hey, I eat raw liver for breakfast because I'm a strong man. And so there is somewhere in between where you can find a nutritional plan that is sustainable for the next 20 years, and that's not going to hurt you, for instance. And so this is just for nutrition. But if you start to look at subjects like money, like relationships, like everything, I always invite people to look at the middle path, basically.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for listening.
Always a pleasure. If people want to know more about you and what you offer, which is mostly crypto education right now, although you have many different projects, how can they find you?
Yeah, so at this time, Instagram would be still the best way, at They Call Me Fab. And I'm sure you will put a little link somewhere.
Yes.
But really, I'm actually sort of slowly coming out of crypto. And Claire, I've been in that realm for 9 years, and I'm still selling a few courses and stuff for this bull market. So for 2024, those courses will be really valuable. People will save a lot of time and money. But after that, I'm just going to move forward with building community and preparing for a plan B, which is a whole conversation for another day. But if you guys are interested on those subjects and you're questioning the shape of the planet and the chemtrails and the fluoride in the water and what else, but nobody around you is interested in even talking about that because they think you are a lunatic. Well, between Anne-Claire and people like myself and all our friends, you will have a lot of content to enjoy and to help you to think through all those beautiful, interesting subjects.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will see you for another episode very soon. Thank you, Fabrice.
Thank you for having me, Anne-Claire. Pleasure.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, please like it on Spotify and on Apple Podcast and share it around you to the kind-hearted people who also want to find their way and live a life by design. Bye-bye.